Hello and welcome to Undead Gaming News, your one-stop shop for all things gaming. I'm your host Zombie, and first up this week, we of course have the PlayStation Showcase. Sony kicked off the event by revealing Fair Games, which is coming from Jade Raymond's Haven studio. The game is a competitive heist experience coming to PS5 and PC, and it's about robbing the ultra-rich. No release window has been given for the game though. And then following that was a confirmation of a sequel to 2015's Helldivers, which was a top-down cooperative shooter. However, Helldivers 2 is taking a different direction in terms of style. It's still being developed by Arrowhead Game Studios, who developed the original. This time though, they're going for a third-person shooter style instead, and when it launches, it will be coming to PS5 and PC sometime this year. Next up was another trailer for Immortals of Avium, which is of course being developed by Ascendant Studios, and is coming to PS5, Xbox Series S and X and PC on July the 20th. Then we had a sequel to action platformer Ghost Runner. The new gameplay prominently featured vehicular combat, with players riding at high speeds on a motorcycle. Ghost Runner 2 is coming sometime in 2023 to the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series S and X and PC. Following that was one of the highlights of the showcase for me, and that was in the form of Phantom Blade Zero, a new hack-and-slash RPG set in the Phantom world, a place where Chinese kung fu, steampunk, and more converge. The game will feature fast-paced sword combat, taking place in a bleak and punishing semi-open world. It does not have a release date or window yet, but it will be releasing on the PS5 and PC when the time comes. After that we had Sword of the Sea, which is a new game from Giant Squid, who are of course known for Journey, Abzu and The Pathless. This game however takes place in an abandoned world where the terrain flows in constant waves, where you control a new movement mechanic known as the Hover Sword, which controls like a snowboard, skateboard and hoverboard all in one. No release date was given, but it will be coming to the PS5 and PC. Next up was another sequel, this time to the Talos Principle. The sequel is set to expand the first game's philosophical themes and stunning environments, with increasingly mind-bending challenges. Crow Team's The Talos Principle 2 is coming to PS5, Xbox Series S and X and PC sometime this year. Following that was Neva, which comes from Nomada Studio, which are the creators of the indie hit Gree. Neva is the tale of a young woman and her lifelong bond with a magnificent wolf as they embark on a thrilling adventure through a rapidly dying world, and is scheduled to release sometime this year, and is due to release on the PS5 and the PC. After that we had Cat Quest Pirates of the Caribbean, and will be out in 2024 on the PS4, PS5 and PC. Next up was Square Enix revealing a first look at Foam Stars, which appears to be a Splatoon-like team shooter. The gameplay looked like the characters were competing to cover the ground with as much foam as possible. The game is coming to PS4, PS5 and currently has no release window. After that was The Plucky Squire. The gameplay showed the Plucky Squire adventuring between storybook settings and a real-world living room. The game looks like it will be constantly shaking things up in terms of gameplay, with all of the different storybook settings the character hops into. The Plucky Squire will be coming to PS5 and PC sometime this year. The next game was Teardown, which was originally released in April of 2022 on the PC, but is now coming to the PS5. And if you've never heard of it, it's a voxel-based heist game where you tear down walls and obstacles in the environment to create shortcuts and complete objectives. It's pure physics-based destruction with a 40-mission main campaign, split into two parts, where you play as the owner of Locale Teardown Services. Your business is struggling, so you mix with shady individuals and get caught up in demolishing buildings, stealing safes, and committing insurance fraud. There's no current release window for the PS5 version though, but after that was a teaser for Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater Remake, and no release window was provided for that either, but it's set to arrive on the PS5. This announcement was also accompanied by the Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1, which includes ports of Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty, and Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, which is coming to the PS5 sometime this autumn. And considering it's called Volume 1, it's fair to assume there will be another volume at a later date, perhaps containing Metal Gear Solid 4 Guns of the Patriots. After that was Towers of Agasaba, which is reminiscent of the more recent Zelda games, and will be out in 2024 on the PS5 and PC. Then we had yet another trailer for Final Fantasy XVI, which of course is coming June 22nd, exclusively to the PS5. After that was another look at Alan Wake 2, which is coming on October the 17th on PS5, Xbox Series S and X and PC. There is a bit of controversy surrounding Alan Wake 2, as shortly after the showcase, developer Remedy Entertainment revealed in an FAQ that Alan Wake 2 won't be available on disc. Their reasoning was fairly poor. However, publisher THQ Nordic said they'd love to release it on disc, so it's a bit up in the air right now. But in the showcase we also got a new look at Assassin's Creed Mirage, which is the next mainline entry to the series, and appears to be going back to the franchise's roots a bit more. and also includes a new feature called Assassin's Focus, which lets you mark and assassinate several targets in a row. It will be arriving on the Xbox Series S and X, Xbox One, PS5, PS4, and PC on October the 12th. The next game was Revenant Hill, which is made by the same developers behind Night in the Woods. We don't know much about this new title, but it is coming to the PS4, PS5, and PC. No current release window for it yet though. The next game was Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, which is coming this winter to the PS5, PS4, and PC. The game was announced way back in 2016 and is finally coming this year. Platinum Games was originally on board to develop it alongside Cygames, but the two parted ways in 2019. More updates are scheduled for this summer. And then next up we had Street Fighter 6, which is coming June 2nd on PS5, PS4, and Xbox Series S and X. And then we had Ultros, which is a side-scrolling platformer with colourful art coming next year for the PS4, PS5, and PC. And then there was Tower of Fantasy, which is an open-world sci-fi game coming from Hotter Studio. The trailer showed bright, colourful landscapes and fast-paced combat. And after that, Dragon's Dogma 2 was officially unveiled, with a new trailer showing tons of monsters, including enormous dragons, of course. And this marks the first new mainline Dragon's Dogma game in over a decade. We know very little about the sequel other than it being developed by Capcom in the RE engine. And then they moved into the PSVR 2 announcements, which started off with Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted 2, which is coming to the PSVR 2 sometime this year. And then there was Resident Evil 4's VR mode, which is currently in development with an unknown release date. And then there was Arizona Sunshine 2, the next-gen sequel to the VR Apocalypse, but it packs even more gory zombie action. Then there was a new trailer for Crossfire Sierra Squad, which is a tactical shooter. After that was Synapse, which is a telekinetic shooter, that's coming on July the 4th. And then there was Beat Saber making its way over to the PSVR 2, which is currently available now, with a new Queen music pack. Beat Saber was the last PSVR title in the showcase, and after that they moved back to regular games, and went straight into Bungie for their new game called Marathon, which is a reboot of a 1994 game with the same name. This one, however, is PvP focused and won't feature a single-player campaign, unlike the original. And then after that was another trailer from Bungie, but this time for Destiny 2, The Final Shape, which is the final content pack for the Light and Darkness saga, so it will bring that narrative to an end. Its title may change though at a later date, as it's currently a working title, but they're also hosting a Destiny showcase with more information in August. After that we had Concord, which is the first original AAA project from Firewalk Studios, and it's a new PvP multiplayer game set in a science fiction universe. It's coming to PS5 and PC sometime in 2024, and then the final game that they showed was of course Spider-Man 2. It was an extended gameplay trailer showing off both Peter and Miles' new abilities, as well as the villain, Kraven the Hunter. The Lizard, also known as Dr. Kirk Connors, was also in the trailer too. The trailer did show that you can switch between Peter and Miles. Whether that will be strictly in scripted situations in missions, or if it will be available in free play is currently unknown. But Spider-Man 2 is expected to arrive exclusively on PS5 sometime in fall this year. While that was all of the games at the showcase, Jim Ryan did reveal some new accessories for the PS5, which were Project Q, which is the new handheld device centered around cloud gaming and remote play, and it looks like they basically replaced the middle of a PS5 controller with a tablet. The screen will have an 8-inch HD screen. In addition to that, there was also a new pair of wireless Bluetooth earbuds revealed too, which are the first earbuds released by PlayStation. While that's it for the showcase, Jim Ryan did also have an interview talking about exclusives, where he reaffirmed Sony's commitment to keeping its exclusives off of PC until the PlayStation fans have had their time with them. Jim said, "Sony fully understands the importance of PS5 exclusive titles. PlayStation Studios' main responsibility is to have people enjoy the game. Sony is committed to increasing the number of PS5 exclusive titles and staggering the release of the PC version." If you're wondering how much of a delay these PC versions will actually get, Jim didn't give a specific time frame for it, but did say that selling the PC version 2 or 3 years after the release of the PS version is accepted favourably. There was a couple of other games that have had new trailers outside of the PlayStation showcase, one of which being Testament: The Order of the High Human, which is a first-person single-player action-adventure game with bits of RPG and Metroidvania elements set in a post-apocalyptic fantasy world. It offers a mixed combat with different possibilities and combination by sword, spells and bow. While it's rich with platforming and puzzles, Testament: The Order of High Human has been in the works for a while, and it originally had a Kickstarter page back in 2019. The funding for that page has since been cancelled, but its Steam page does say that it's coming soon. Hopefully we'll have a more updated release window this year. The other game that's got a new trailer is a new farm simulator that's about to release, as it's just announced its May 30th release date within its new trailer, showing off its crops, livestock, critters and cooking. That all sounds like the standard farm sim fare, but there's a twist within this one, as when you go to sleep you can transform yourself into an animal. This game is of course Everdream Valley, and in the game, you'll decorate and design your grandparents' homestead, plant crops, catch bugs, fish and take care of a lot of livestock as per usual, but each night your dreams will let you take the role of many animals around the farm through unique minigames. The more animal variety on the farm, the more nighttime adventures unlock, and each have its own unique reward or impact on your farm the next morning. It will be available on the Epic Games Store, Steam and GOG. Outside of game releases and teasers, we have Embracer Group CEO Lars Wingefors, who recently took a huge loss during his gaming conglomerate's latest earning presentation after it was revealed that the company lost out on a $2 billion game development deal at the last minute. Without ever naming the company who backed out of the partnership, Lars said Embracer had a really strong commitment from someone it trusted. In a press release, he wrote that the agreement would have been transformative for the company and set a new benchmark for the gaming industry. This deal falling through has caused Embracer Group's stock to go down over 40%, and Lars has said the company had been working on the deal since last fall, with hundreds of specialists involved on both sides, and a strong belief that it could all work out despite some logistical challenges. However, in other news, former Battlefield creative director Lars Gustafsson has announced the formation of a new game development studio, Time to Kill Games. Co-founded by 4 EA DICE veterans, the Stockholm, Sweden-based studio says that it has secured significant funding coupled with creative freedom, and is currently working on a next-gen online shooter. TTK Games CEO and creative director, Gustafsson, worked at DICE for 22 years, where he's known as Mr. Battlefield, having helped shape the franchise from its beginning until he departed last year. Also in the studio is its senior design director, Daniel Berlin, who worked as a game designer on Ubisoft's Far Cry 3 before spending almost a decade at DICE, where he worked on multiple Battlefield titles as lead world designer and design director. TTK's studio chief technology officer and technical director is Vidar Nygren, who previously spent 25 years at DICE, where he directed the development of the Frostbite game engine and most recently served as head of technology. And lastly, there's the art director, Peter Hoyles, who worked at DICE for 12 years, where he contributed to multiple Battlefield games and served as studio art director for DICE LA. Talking about the studio, Gustafsson said, "For players, the phrase time to kill defines how a shooter feels and how fast it plays. We made it our studio name and part of our studio culture. For us, the term TTK isn't just about the craftsmanship behind finding the perfect speed or immediacy of a game, it's about how human beings have been killing time through play for thousands of years. Throughout my career, I've made games to encourage teamwork, friendly competition and using your mind and reflexes to accomplish a goal and outwit your opponent. We are passionate about video games because we think there's no better way to kill time." Which is a nice sentiment, but I also think it emphasises quite well that TTK Games will solely be focused on making shooters. In other news though, Gage and Entertainment have removed the mention of Steam from War Thunder's website following some review bombing after in-game economic changes that would potentially make the game harder to play without spending real money. Even though Gaijin said it would be reversing the changes, the developer went on to remove Steam from its website, even though the game is still playable on the platform. They said, "Review bombing does damage to the game in that new players simply won't try it. While it doesn't raise the awareness of the problems you've noticed, if your goal is not to hurt the game, please use other, less destructive ways." The Steam page now shows the game rated overwhelmingly negative at over 84,000 current recent reviews, while general reviews show the game to be mixed. Also in the news is Activision, as they've now cracked down on their second PC fan project. The team behind the popular COD modded client XLabs have closed down after receiving a cease and desist demand from Activision. They tweeted saying, "We are complying with this order and shutting down all operations permanently. Thank you all for your support over the years." XLabs had already been around for years, running dedicated servers for modded versions of fan-favourite Call of Duties that Activision has long moved on from, including the original Modern Warfare 2, Advanced Warfare and Black Ops 3. However, now the XLabs website, Patreon and Discord channel have all been deleted. The Modern Warfare 2 project in particular was called IW4X and was particularly popular among a small community of fans. IW4X was essentially classic Modern Warfare 2 with some extras like a few imported weapons and maps from Call of Duty 4 and Black Ops 2. It's also worth noting that XLabs was not distributing complete Call of Duty games, it was just a mod pack, meaning that a normally installed version of the game was required for it to work. Our final story this week is an update from the Gamer lawsuit against the Microsoft Activision acquisition. If you're unfamiliar, in December of 2022, a group of Call of Duty players filed a lawsuit to oppose Microsoft's planned acquisition of Activision Blizzard, alleging that it was likely Microsoft would use ownership of the company against Sony in its ongoing battle for console supremacy. In March of 2023, the case was thrown out. The judge ruled that it's possible that Microsoft could make Activision Blizzard games exclusive to its consoles, but that the plaintiffs had not alleged facts that made it plausible that Microsoft is likely to do so. That wasn't the end of it though, as the plaintiffs were given 20 days to refile the action with proper supporting evidence, and they did. They also filed a request for a preliminary injunction blocking the merger until the lawsuit is decided. The judge in that case has now rejected that request, declaring that the plaintiffs have not shown any likelihood that they will suffer immediate irreparable harm if the deal is allowed to proceed. The ruling states, first, plaintiffs currently play Call of Duty on Xbox, on Windows PC, or on PlayStation. There is nothing in the record that suggests, upon the merger, Microsoft can do anything to make these Call of Duty versions currently owned by the plaintiffs somehow stop working, let alone that it would do so. Thus, the day after the merger, they can play exactly the same way they've played with their friends before the merger. The judge also added that it's not very likely Microsoft will release a new Xbox exclusive Call of Duty before the full lawsuit can be decided, and that if it announced plans for an Xbox exclusive Call of Duty in violation of its own written commitments not to, a preliminary injunction could then be put into place at that point. The ruling goes on to cite various proceedings to demonstrate when a preliminary injunction is and is not appropriate, but the bottom line is that any potential harm the plaintiffs might suffer as a result of Microsoft's Activision Blizzard acquisition will not occur between now and a trial on the merits. To be clear, this decision is strictly relating to the request for a preliminary injunction against the merger. The lawsuit seeking to stop the deal outright is still pending, but it doesn't strike me as a particularly good sign for its likelihood of success. Not that I was ever at all confident that it would be successful in the first place. But that's all we have time for this week. If you have any thoughts on anything discussed this week, please leave it in the comment section below as always, and I'll see you next week. Goodbye.